I was really interested to see these two exhibitions come together because I actually am most familiar with both Suzette and Gao's works from the UHEMFA exhibition the year that they both graduated. In that show, Gao had paintings kind of throughout the Blaffer, Suzette had sculptures throughout the Blaffer, and also in that show was this little guy, or this big guy right here. And a few other pieces in here. So seeing their work in that kind of group setting context was really interesting, and I see why, once we kind of brought all of those pieces into a smaller gallery, once Anya did this, how their work really works together and has a little bit of a push and pull on each other. I'm gonna just start with the most basic question to get it out of the way, which is the question that I know you get all the time, which is, what are these things and how did you make them?
Well, these are called nudibranchs. So they're marine slugs. So they're related to terrestrial snails and slugs. They do have a shell at some point in their development, so you know, they are tiny snails at some point, and then they lose the shell. They're found in waters around the world, but the most colorful and fantastic ones are in coral reefs because they get the color from the foods they eat. And they're indicators of climate change. They're starting to be used as indicators because you can see them when you're scuba diving. There's an expert in the audience. When you're scuba diving, you can see them. And so they're easy to count if you're swimming a transect to determine how healthy the reef is. So that's a little bit about their biology. They're made from styrofoam, the kind of foam that you get in packaging, that when you break it, all those little beads start flying and sticking on everything. That's what they're actually hand carved from. And then they're coated with a material that feels like plaster, but it has acrylic in it, so it's a good sealer. But it's still fragile, so these are definitely fine art pieces.
I was actually talking before our talk about how your works, although they kind of look slapdash, how they are really more well thought out and put together. Mm-hmm. And they take a little longer to paint sometimes, and you're making them look quick. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So I've been making sharks for two years already. I've made 40, 50 sharks, I believe. So shark is, I think I'm really interested in internet, and shark is sort of my reaction towards the internet and social media especially. So you can sort of consider the show, which I'm really glad I can put all sharks in the gallery, although that's part of my decision. But you can sort of consider the sharks as there's the internet word meme, which is like a topic, or like a breaking news. Sometimes if there's a breaking news happen, and you have all these channels reporting it differently, and it's all over the internet, and people sometimes make fun. So that's why I feel about this, like everything is fast-made, everything is fast, everything is immediately. So I sort of want my audience to sort of feel that way in my painting. But if you really you practice painting a lot of time for lots of years and more, you know about painting, you can tell that painting takes a really long time. Because all the curves I would adjust so many times to make it just one curve, and then we just talk about this with Mia. So in terms of making one curved line, it will take so much taping and processing and revising. So that's kind of making fun of this, or react to this internet fast-made information explosion.
Yeah. And in terms of that process also, you both kind of have really interesting diverse backgrounds of Gao, you coming to America and your style, because you've come from China and your style there was painting one type of way, and now it's really morphed. And then Suzette coming from a field that was maybe a little more science-based, because it was science and it was biology, and then morphing into becoming or just showing your true colors maybe as a sculptor. And I wonder if you could both kind of talk about how that journey has been for you.
Yeah, so think so. I've been painting like traditional oil painting, the Renaissance painting for 7 years, and then I think this whole transition is pretty natural to me in terms of how painting should be painting these days. Because in the late 20th century we have camera. I didn't realize that because I'm really just fascinated with painting, painting, make it real. But now I'm part of I call it painting, independent world of painting, in terms of painting. You do not think of other art media when you see painting. So this transition is pretty natural. I think I'm more free. I feel more free now, and then I just really addicted into sort of the negotiation between my hand and a movement and a canvas surface. That's sort of like what I call this show a surface or skin, because I'm painting skin, but it's all about the surface of canvas. I think that's the main reason moving to sort of abstract, certain level of abstract, and then this style of painting. Yeah, and then about American culture is, I mean, I won't talk about politics and stuff, but it's different. I feel more open and trying to find myself in this American scenario. So definitely affected me a lot. And specifically, I've been painting as a career artist in Beijing, China for 2 years. And then all of a sudden, this is a new place, nobody knows me, and I'm a student again, so I'm free to do all the things I have. So I don't have to worry about my old audience, right? Because people don't know me, so I'm going to do something experimental. So, yeah.
Well, it got more and more abstracted and more away from reality, but with a touch still present.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, removing the information from the object.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So how did you come to art from science?
Well, it's really too long of a story to tell here. But basically, I reached a point in my life where I needed to follow a different path. And I had been teaching science at University of Houston downtown for about 14 years. And then I had some misfortune in my life, and I thought a lot about where that was going to take me, what my journey would be from there on. So I decided to change paths completely, to return to something that I just feel. As Gosling, very free. There's nothing freer than being able to express yourself so effectively, and also to just be amazed at what can grow under your hands. It's fascinating. I think when I ended up, I had intended to follow a research career, and that didn't work out. Of just some family responsibilities. So I ended up teaching, and what I enjoyed the most about that was figuring out ways to get students inspired about the work, what they needed to learn in order to be educated about biology and the world today. So that was where I really applied my creative skills and figuring out how to just make experiences for the students that were inspiring and yet meet the requirements of the institution. So it's not a student box checking at the same time. So yeah, definitely. I love to make the presentations for the classes where we incorporate videos of organisms like these, and we just look snippets to say, this is what's out there that's so marvelous that we need to care about.
Well, and I feel like these kind of almost, the more you and I talk about them, they almost kind of extend into an almost absurd version of that didactic teaching method of showing you these things in larger than life scale, larger than human proportions even, of things, objects, creatures that are being hurt by the very thing they're made of. These sea creatures are being hurt by styrofoam, and they are made of styrofoam. It's a little bit of a funny carrying on itself.
I don't agree that they're being didactic per se, because, I mean, it's not obvious that they're about climate change and global warming. Whereas when I was teaching, I was pretty clear about what the point was. So, which is, that's expected for any kind of communication for education purposes. The student needs to know what it is that they're expected to learn. So they're intended to be sculptures, they're intended to be perceived as sculptures, but of course, they're inspired by beauty and mystery that is in the world around us.
So I want to touch a little bit just on the absurdity. I know I'm the one that brought it up, but the absurdity, I think, really kind of shares in both of y'all's work. And even though I don't think either of you are intentionally trying to be funny, and the work isn't necessarily funny, laugh out loud funny, but at the same time, there's a hilarious absurdity to taking something that's this big and making it larger than you are. And you having to create the thing that's larger than you are. And then there's a funny absurdity to painting the same image 40 times for no reason other than to maybe try and find out something about it that you don't already know about it. Repetition is funny. Scale is funny. And I know y'all might not necessarily think about absurdity forefronted in your work, but would y'all be able to talk a little bit about how you approach absurdity or how you think about absurdity in your own work? Whether it's conscious or not, or you completely disagree, I would love that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to me, definitely absurdity and humor. I think that's the byproduct of my production of painting. I think that's important. I think that's absurdity, humor is really strong elements in any type of conversation to me. When you want to make a point, if you make it straightforward, that's one direction. If you make it humorous and absurd, that's another direction. Sometimes make it stronger. So that's definitely something behind the scenes. So to me, by doing the same image like again and again, is at some point I think all the painters are doing the same painting, just like at some level, even doing even realistic paintings. I mean, you are painting your own style, but that's the same painting. Although the composition is the same, but the color, the brushworks, they're all totally different from one from another. So that's kind of my sort of humorous reaction towards today's paintings. Like, people tell me I have this idea and another idea. I think they're painting the same painting anyways, you know what I mean? So that's kind of my reaction towards the painters. I think if they sort of get it, they will like sort of laugh about it. But yeah, so that's my one thing. The other thing is shark. I'm painting shark portraits, almost portrait of a shark. That's kind of impossible. You can't just like diving in the water and stay still. There's a shark. I'm kind of painting, So I make fun of this thing by the first picture of that shark is I found randomly online. I don't remember, it's on Instagram or something. So I painted and then I lost the image purposely. So the second painting I want to paint another shark. I have to based on my first painting, and then it's sort of like. Again, it's about... It's the derivativeness of what painting is. Right. And the fact that painting has been around for hundreds of years, and how can you do that new at all? Exactly.
And yet you're still trying.
Exactly, and also you can sort of relate my painting to once you search image on Google Image, you get a million pictures about something related, something not related. That's something like the same idea of my paintings too. So that's my sort of humorous and absurdity elements in my painting. Yeah.
Do you think about absurdity at all? Because I've seen some of your other work, and absurdity might feed more into some of your other work than into these specifically.
Yeah, I do, definitely. And that's true for Gao too. I mean, some of his other, the previous series of paintings, the ones you showed us at
Oh, the skull.
yeah, he has a very understated humor, which is marvelous. And I think I'm definitely influenced by surrealism and Dada. So there's always just kind of this sense of why am I alive? What am I doing? You know, there's always this feeling in the back of my mind or in my self that there's a certain futility to life, and yet it's, you know, it's what we are inspired by and what we hold on to and what we want to just grab a hold of, you know, every day. And so there's definitely just that sense of, I guess, strangeness. And maybe that's why surrealism and Dada appeal to me so much, because there's a strangeness about the work. And
there's no formula versus like here in this gallery, you almost have a little more surrealism Dada versus pop or contemporary pop in a way. And contemporary pop has a little more of a formula.
Yeah.
Like even though all of your paintings are different, they follow a formula of creation in a way because the image is the same, just that basic outline. Whereas with your sculptures, there may be a little more following that nondescript, unsettling rule.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm looking for something with every piece I make, and that making large pieces like this is a challenge to effectively, I guess, use the strategies that I was using with assemblage. So assemblage is like collage, where you're using three-dimensional objects, making them together to make a sculpture. And to do it well, you are really searching for some kind of poetic juxtaposition between two really different objects, and they take you to this new place in your mind, and you see that strange interaction between these two things that don't belong together. So with sculpture straight up, you know, trying to reach that same really compelling, I guess, visual combination, but I'm trying to do it with one object. So it's more difficult, and with assemblage, the way I go about it is to take a box of objects that I've already selected, they're things I'm interested in, and I dump them out on a big table, and I just start sorting through and putting things together, and basically just you know, messing around. And I try to keep my conscious filter out of the way and just mess around with these things. And then pretty soon I find something that fits together that's like, oh wow, that's really cool. And sometimes it's a little embarrassing because you're like, I didn't really do that, did I? You know? Did I just put those two things together? Well, okay, let me deal with that. So, but with a sculpture, you know, straight up like that, I'm going to make it different. How do I do that? And the way that I've gone about it thus far is just to try to do the same thing with clay. To say, well, okay, I'm going to model this creature, and then when I'm modeling it, I just let myself play, and I just try not to really pay attention to what I'm doing, right? And then every once in a while, something interesting happens. That's the experimental part. And you're like, oh yeah, what if he is going like that? You know, you know, what does that do to this creature to give him a pose, a human like pose that's coy? Oh, how interesting, you know.
I like that you call this one coy, because the more time I spend in this show, the more unsettled I am by your work, and the more cute I think your work is. Which is kind of the swap of sharks are scary. We're used to seeing footage of them coming in a diving cave and chomping away, and then these are this big, so there's no reason they should be unsettling to us. But at the same time, I think we were talking about this a little bit before our talk, but they're familiar but alien to us. We have some sort of familiarity, and we don't think they're not of this world because we've seen creatures under microscopes, or we've seen Discovery Channel footage. But at the same time, they aren't supposed to be that big. It's almost like seeing something from the dinosaur era blown up in real life. And there's a weird unsettlingness that happens when that happens, and I think it's really interesting how both of your works swap what that kind of expected function would be.
I'm kind of interested back in what you said about the unconsciousness, like how you don't want you really aware of doing this. Sometimes that makes something interesting. I think I really agree with that because unconsciousness, because the way we see, the way we appreciate our work is kind of different right now. It's like, to me, I read this about how appreciate art is sort of like a circle. In terms of you see the artworks and you know about artists, and you get more information, and then you see the artworks again. And then you have more questions, and then you ask the artist or know about the artist, and then it's like a circle never ends. And unconsciousness is something, it's not like before the Renaissance or all like those ages, it's like a window, right? It's like to me it's a window to introduce you to another world or to a religion, to a story. You don't have to know anything, any information about the window itself, right? But now I think contemporary painting or contemporary art is more like a space where artists used to live, but art is not there. It's just showing the space. So you have to know about artists for you to sort of really realize some details, some little tracks on the ground that relates to the artist. And then you have this circle going on. I think that's the perfect way to appreciate art, and unconsciousness is really, really important in nowadays art making.
Well, and this almost goes back to your works and how they're inspired by climate change and how these organisms are being destroyed, essentially. Do you think that if someone walks away just thinking that it's a really cool object and a really cool sculpture, are they getting the entire picture? Do you care if they get the entire picture? Is there something specific you want people to walk away with these things? Since that image is a little more buried, or you would have to maybe read a press release or talk to you in order to get that depth of it.
I'm happy if people approach the artworks as artworks. I'm happy if they appreciate the poetry of each piece, the rhythm, the color, the gracefulness, the attitude, the personality of each piece. That's wonderful. If they get more from it, that's great. Yeah.
What I'm interested in is, why are these things paintings and why are your things sculptures? Because artists make really important decisions for a reason, and artists make paintings because they think a painting is the best mode of conveying whatever they want to say. And other artists that choose to make sculptures, or the artists that make good sculptures and good paintings, choose sculpture because that medium will do half of the work for them. So I'm always really interested in kind of breaking that down and just finding the simple version of, oh, I make paintings because here it is. And normally it totally makes sense after you hear the person's thought about it.
Interesting. That's a really interesting question. I think for painting in general, I do paintings all on canvas on pen. I think something about painting itself, this material is, the canvas, blank canvas is an opportunity. It's a rejection. It's a limitation. And it fights against your eager to fill the space, this canvas. How to fill the space and empower this canvas. It's kind of conflict, but also that's something trigger painters fill the canvas and to revise the canvas, to live with the canvas, with the process. I think that's really interesting, but also I'm just the way why I'm training paintings. This is the only thing I can do seriously. But my paintings, if you're interested in art history, I think my painting, or I'm trying to make my painting react to art history. I think that's really important for me. We talk about this just now in terms of, for example, for Renaissance and pre-Renaissance, they paint the same person. Everyone looks the same. And it just try to introduce different compositions to tell different stories. And then the Renaissance, they figure out that we can paint people differently. It's more about people. And then Romantic, like on and on. And then you have Surrealism, you have Dada, trying to challenge what is art, what's the boundary of different media of art. I think that's really important. And then that's some difference. And then you have Andy Warhol. Making the same products, that's sort of a reaction towards the product, like what was that called? The chain, the product chain?
Mass production.
Mass production, yeah. So there's that, and then I'm sort of trying to use that idea developed. You can see I'm painting the same paintings, and they are actually different paintings to tell the history or to tell the people nowadays. You don't have to focus on what it is to define it is the same painting or a different painting. You can just focus on painting itself. And I think that gives the opportunity, the potential to paint to me. So that's sort of all based on my understanding of painting itself. Yeah, to make this, doesn't make sense. Doesn't answer your question. Yeah.
At the same time, I know you have a completely different thought about that, which is why you make sculptures.
I'm absolutely fascinated by the ability to make something that becomes a fact in our existence that seems as though it's got a life of its own. These creatures are they're still fascinating to me. I mean, when I see I come into the gallery and I mean, there's they're so still inspiring to me because I learned so much. I enjoyed the process of making them, and it was something that seemed to occur a lot of the times without my conscious direction of the making process. So it's very meditative, and I guess that's part of the fascination. The building up of the piece, it's like an actualization that, making this thing exist is just absolutely fascinating to me. As opposed to a painting where my mind needs to approach and apprehend the surface and interpret the visual cues I'm receiving. It's just a different way of interacting with the visual world.
By making it exist, you mean making it exist in 3D?
You can grab it, you can move it around, and you can, you have to move it around. Well, I personally think that if you have a piano, that the sharp and